What is going on, everybody? We are here with Tortora
And Alford.
inside of Wake Up Calls Studios, and we are hanging out with you as we always do, pre-gaming Syracuse football games. We are inside of the 2024-25 season, and this is a tale of two different teams. Syracuse right now is coming into this game with a victory over Ohio, a victory over Georgia Tech, and a loss most recently to Stanford. They played 2 games in the ACC. They've only played 1 non-conference game. They are 2-1. On the other side of it, Holy Cross is 1-3 in their first season without Bob Chesney. Very interesting here that Bob Chesney, the coach of the Holy Cross Crusaders, was up for the Syracuse job before Fran got it. So he was one of the people that I was told highly considered that did, in fact, interview for the Syracuse job, and eventually went on to James Madison, where he just played a basketball game against North Carolina on the road, winning that game 70-50. And so Holy Cross, interesting here because Syracuse has played them, but the Bob Chesney thing where he was almost the Syracuse coach, now he's not there anymore. And but interestingly enough, Syracuse played the quarterback of the Crusaders in recent history. And thanks to free agency, Matt Sluka is going to be playing in the. I'm just kidding. Thoughts on the before we go anywhere on the Matt Sluka thing, because Sluka was the quarterback of the Holy Cross Crusaders, and then he left when Chesney left in this offseason, went over to UNLV. They're 3-0. They're being talked about in the college football playoff expansion to 12. They beat 2 Big 12 teams in taking down Houston as well as Kansas most recently. And then he says, I'm leaving the team. I wish everybody well. The representation that I was supposed to get, I didn't get. So, peace out. I'm a free agent. I'm going to redshirt myself.
Hey, man. I'm not gonna lie. I've watched a couple of those matter of fact, that Kansas UNLV game I made. That was a Friday night game. I made sure I watched that because I wanted to kind of scout UNLV. And then, like you said, the name rung a bell. And I'm like, man, we know this guy from somewhere. Yeah. And then they were like, yeah, he's the quarterback from Holy Cross from last year. And then it was like he's a dual threat guy. Yeah. And I'm watching the Kansas game, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, we got to play another kid, dual threat, kind of thinking of the Georgia Tech quarterback. And I was like, okay, here we go, another. And lo and behold, now he's redshirting. I guess I have to watch UNLV because I think they play after our game this Saturday. So I'm going to have to catch the backup, see what he's all about.
The 2 backups that they have, one that's a transfer and one that was there.
So, yeah, it's kind of crazy that, a guy can come into a program and then all of a sudden just say, hey, I'm not playing. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that wide receiver. I'm drawing a blank, but the kid from South Carolina did the same thing. Kind of got supposedly nicked up, and then he sat out the rest of the season, then he transferred to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And so, it's just kind of weird that they guys can just take themselves out of the lineup for whatever reason, and then, you got your teammates trying to build some chemistry all summer, fall along with you.
Yeah.
Got off to a good start, and now it's like, you know what? Hey, I'm out of here.
I'm out.
So that's not what we want to see with college sports, not whether it's football or basketball. You know what I'm saying? So, no, it's just weird. Just weird. I mean, I don't like it. I'll be honest with you. It's just you can't depend on anybody if that's what it's all about. If it's about me, my situation.
Right.
You promised me this, that,
Yeah.
How about go out and earn it?
Right.
Why do we have to promise you anything?
Well, why did I have to pay any money in my divorce? Because she broke the promises she gave to me. I got a lot of verbal agreements, too.
Exactly. So why? I mean, go out and earn it, man. Don't take the easy way out or whatever the route you're trying to take out of it just because you think you're going to get a better opportunity somewhere else. Maybe you thought, 3-0, I'm too good for this conference. I need to go to bigger and better things or whatever the case may be. But
we know how that usually works out.
Yeah, and be careful what you wish for because you never know. So, but you know what? Like I said, I kind of scouted them out a couple of games ago, and then I was thinking, all right, we got to make sure we keep our eye. But he was more of a running guy, though, more than he was a passer, to me, my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, because his passing yards over 3 games didn't like. It was like 360. It was like maybe like 100 yards.
Right.
And what didn't wow me, I looked at it and I'm like, a really good quarterback would do this in 1 game.
Yeah, exactly. But he was a runner, though.
Actually, he was. I think his total passing yards were eclipsed by Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord in 1 game.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he definitely was a runner. I was like, okay, that's definitely one thing, the defense was going to have to pay attention with this guy trying to escape the pocket and taking advantage of with his feet. But you know what? Dang, now it's back to the drawing board and, like I said, watch some film on these 2 backup guys and see what we're going to have to come into the game plan. But, we'll worry about that another week or so. So, we got Holy Cross to focus on.
Sounded like a coach. Yeah, he had 318 yards in 3 games. So I said 316. I was right there. 318 yards in 3 games total, and his completion percentage 43.8.
Yeah.
Kyle McCord has had over 350 in the first 2 games and 339 most recently.
Yeah.
So in 1 game, as I stated, Kyle McCord had what Sluka had in 3 games, Kyle McCord beat in every single game individually this season. So, but yeah, I mean, interesting now. I think Dan Curran, the head coach of Holy Cross, was like this. They can't scout if we get rid of this dude. How do you prepare for something that we didn't prepare for?
Exactly.
So it's just crazy. We appreciate you being here with us on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. We appreciate you so much around the country and the world for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Of course, we are live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and that is our typical broadcasts every single week. And of course, we have special broadcasts that we do like this broadcast. And once the shows go live, they hop into the archives, and you can go and find Wake Up Call on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. So we appreciate everybody that listens and watches live, as well as those of you that find us on playback. You can also ask Alexa and your Google Home devices to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and they'll do that for you as well. So let's get into Matt Sluka for a second. I didn't know that you could redshirt yourself. So the rule that was made a few years ago is that if you play in 4 games or less in a season and you haven't redshirted, that your school can redshirt you.
Right.
So you can, if you play 4 games or less in a season, you could be redshirted. So you could play a third of the season, counted as a redshirt year. And in the case of Matt Sluka, he redshirted himself. I don't know that is a rule in NCAA that you can. I wrote an article about what's going on in the NCAA. I ended it with you can't make a decision to not create a fence around the barn and then think the horses are going to stay there. If you don't put a fence around NIL and the transfer portal and all the stuff that's going on, every single night you're going to be looking for the horses. He decided to redshirt himself. I thought that was a team decision. So essentially he utilized his player option even though he's not a pro. He has made a decision based on money. His agent talked to their agent, which is ridiculous because these are children. And remember when agents couldn't even be around or even sniff a team in college? When there was all that stuff going on in North Carolina, and they're like, did the team invite the agents or the agents just show up? And by the way, nothing happened in North Carolina, if you're wondering. They made sure that Syracuse paid for a YMCA and one paper by Fab Mello But, don't worry about everything that happened in North Carolina when guys were getting bachelor's degrees and taking yoga classes. But and when you ask a guy what was your major, and he's like, I don't know, they called it something like general studies or who knows. So always helping the people that after football they will have no education. So, and I'm not picking on North Carolina. I'm using them as an example because the reality of it all is there's a lot of things that have happened. There's people that have told me that back in the 70s, if you're at the University of Kentucky, they were giving players not only money but stock in the Kentucky Derby, and that years after they had graduated, they still had stock in it. So some crazy stuff going on. John Calipari's like, shh.
I heard Stetson Bennett didn't get a degree at Georgia,
and he was there for 37 years.
So yeah, make
sense. He went on social media and bragged that he had been at Georgia for 6 years and didn't have a degree. And if you're somewhere for 6 years without a degree, I would think red flag NCAA, but then the NCAA looked and saw that it was Georgia and they shut up.
He had 2 rings though, right? Oh, 2 rings
back to back? I think, yeah. So, but I mean, so NIL, not only is there free agency that's worse than professional free agency, because once you sign with a team, you have to actually stay there. You're supposed to. So we're talking about verbal agreements, stuff that's not in writing. You always got to get it in writing, which I've known for a very long time as a business owner and son of a lawyer. I look at the fact that you're a free agent in the off season. You're a free agent right at the end of the season. You're a free agent after spring ball. If you don't like how spring ball went, you can leave and bring the entire playbook to a team that's playing against your team. There's no parameters on where you can go. You can go in conference now.
Well, only when it applies to Syracuse. A team in our conference, a player in our conference want to come to Syracuse. They're like, no, we're blocking that. He's not going to Syracuse. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know it worked that way, but okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You can go wherever you want. Because coaches used to be able to say you could go wherever you want, and then they'd have a little notepad, and they'd go just not to these places, and they'd have a list of places that you couldn't go to. It happened with Jordan Fredericks.
Yeah.
So there were problems in the past, but now free agency after spring ball, free agency in the summer, free agency immediately after the season. With Matt Sluka now free agency during the season. Now that he's left, I'm guessing he's just going to talk to whoever he wants. He's going to maybe fly to a bunch of games and have the opportunity to just talk to people and be recruited during the season now. Maybe we'll see him on the sidelines of some games because nothing's illegal anymore.
So how does it work? Because he's a graduate already from Holy Cross. He's basically got his degree. He's on his, technically his 5th year or whatever. Is that the reason why he's getting away? Not getting away, but I mean, he has this option because
he's never redshirted.
But yeah, exactly. But if you redshirting, wouldn't you, under normal circumstances, wouldn't you have to go to class? Well, you redshirt.
Well, you're under the impression that they go to class.
Oh yeah, my bad.
So all this is going on. It all smells bad. It started in California. Just pay attention to the state of California, folks. I mean, I guess go there, see it. They were talking about having like government-run grocery stores, which would like make it like World War II, where you would get like, oh, you have a token for bread this week, and then they can decide that you don't have bread next week. Like, California has they've run out of water multiple times. They were running out of water, telling people not to put sprinklers in their grass when they built a stadium. I was like, what's going to come out of the stadium? Pepsi? Like, no water. The place has gone bankrupt numerous times. There's been peaceful protests that end in fires or whatever's going on. I mean, California has been a lot of things that have made me question the leadership then and now. And here we are. And now they want to separate children from their parents and have schools be able to make decisions with your children that they don't have to tell you, which would essentially detach you from your own blood, which is going to, I would think, make a lot of people. I mean, you try to separate the cub from the family, and somebody's going to want to kill you. So, I mean, it's crazy. All this stuff is going on in California. They come out with NIL. There's no parameters. Again, I don't know why this isn't being talked about, but the NCAA forced 49 states to do what California was doing with, I think 9 states had laws in place. 41 states either didn't have it or didn't know what they were going to do. They forced the entire country to do it. They said it was going to be for a year. It hasn't stopped since 2020. This was also done during a pandemic. So you got the whole world in this crazy state. People are paying attention to other things. Look over here, and we'll be doing this stuff over there. It was unique timing during the coronavirus, and then you pass all these laws. Apparently, we don't even know if this stuff was legal, if the NCAA had the right to do it. And they said we're going to do it for a year. It's been 5 years. Now Matt Sluka has opened the door to taking what was already free agency that is above and beyond professional free agency and made it in-season free agency. And now you can negotiate your NIL deals in the middle of the season. So if you get paid $100,000 and then you, in 3 games, the team is 3-0, you go to the coach and say, well, I'm your starting quarterback. I'm going to sit out the next game unless you double my pay.
Well, it's weird because you would think it would probably happen in a situation if a team was 0-3, not 3-0. Like, why would you leave a 3-0 team? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, this is the other part of it too, though. And the flip side, if they were 0-3, could UNLV go to Matt Sluka and say, give us the money back?
Yeah.
Because you got to watch out with something. And I'm going to let you know a little telltale sign. For those of you that think that what is happening in Dartmouth of trying to like unionize and make student athletes employees, please understand something. You have a free education. You got some money before this happened, for the most part, a stipend. Something for food, but you could have spent it on sneakers. So you got a free education. You got some type of money. Free housing. You're saving over $100,000. If you're coming to Syracuse, you're saving you're saving over $300,000 just by being a student athlete in like football, basketball. So think about all that, okay? If you become an employee, employees can be fired. So student athletes saying, well, the NCAA and our schools are making all this money off of us. Without us, they wouldn't make any of this money, so we deserve some. And I agree with you. But if you flip the script and say, well, now we can leave when we want to. We got free agency. We can make demands. We can cripple people. We want to unionize so we don't have to do 2-a-days and we don't have to practice at this time. And we can sit out and you can't do anything about it. And we can keep making money. The thing that people need to understand is there was the extreme of the NCAA and institutions making a ton of money and these kids getting nothing. Now the kids are essentially running the show. But here's the issue. If you run it all the way to the other extreme, then what a school's going to do is say, okay, you get a free education, you get housing, and we'll pay you in our collective. But if you drop a pass, if you lose a game, if we don't like the way that you are in practice, we will take your housing, you'll be homeless. We'll take away your education, you won't have a free education, and we will take back your paycheck that we were giving you. So please understand, if you want to unionize, if you want to be employees, if you want to follow whatever's going on at Dartmouth, if you want to pendulum swing all the way to the other side, student athletes, hear me and hear me in this cautionary tale. You can get fired, you can become homeless, you can lose your education, and you can be poor.
Yeah. Or they can make you pay for your education. So.
Right. They could tell you until you stop. They could turn around and say, every interception you throw, we're taking away $1,000.
Guess what? I'm not passing. Quarterback draw up the middle all game long.
But I'm looking at what's happening with Matt Sluka, and it's funny because my buddy Jason Lucas, who's in this sports and entertainment world of many years, he sent me a message this morning on social media, and he said, wow, if only someone saw this coming, because him and I talked about it back in 2020. I raised my hand. When somebody said on Sirius XM, did anyone know it was going to be this bad? I was like...
Well, it's going to happen when people don't want rules to go in place and just let
Right.
everything act like the Wild Wild West. You know, I mean, yeah, California started, but then here comes Texas and these all rich schools, and these guys got donors with deep pockets, and oh yeah, we're gonna get these kids. We're going, and then the SEC got their good fan base and donors, and now we get coaches. Not even that. Now you're gonna with these conferences combining and stuff. Now you're gonna get coaches fired because everybody got high expectations and NIL, and like you say, you promised me this and you promised me that, and when you don't deliver, guess what's gonna happen? It's gonna be a madhouse.
Yeah.
When all said and done, it's gonna it's just gonna change the game.
And I feel like that's what, I mean, they set up to fail. There's again, they say there's parameters, but they're not. The NCAA has stated that they're working on it. And, this hope that Congress is going to fix it. Let me tell you something. Border crisis, illegal immigration, homelessness, poverty, not great education, friggin' not clean water, Flint, Michigan, the unsafety or like lack of safety in a lot of places, these protests that are blocking streets in New York City today, highways, you got cities on fire, you have inflation, and you want to go to Congress who has done nothing and say, when you get to this, we'll be good with it when it's underway. Congress cannot agree on where to order food from and deliver it to the Capitol building. Okay? If Congress was going to order pizza and wings, they would be 3.5 years into the order and somebody would change their mind. And then as soon as somebody said, I don't want cheese pizza, the other side would say, you know what I want? I want some damn cheese pizza. So if you want Congress to figure out your problems, you got a better shot at just putting your problems in front of a bunch of pigeons in Central Park and seeing which way they fly to, and then just go, hey, wherever they fly, that's what we're going to pick.
That's Major League Baseball about it.
Yeah. It makes no sense whatsoever. Remember when Mark McGwire, when he retired, and they had him speak in front of a congressional hearing, and they said, Mark, have you ever taken steroids? And he said, I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about the present. I'm not concerned with the past. And they're like, cool. We're only concerned with your past. What do you think we called you here for? To ask you what you're doing, how your golf game is? We only asked you here to talk about what you've done. Could you imagine, sir, we have all the evidence in the world that you committed a murder 4 years ago. Well, luckily for me, I'm not here to talk about that today. That's in the past. And I'm trying to be in the present.
Focus.
I'm totally thrown by all of this. And all of these things that have been happening is just showing you, and I think about this. It's like a King Joseph Edwards could turn around and go, you know what? I came here, I spent a couple months, I don't like it here. A Fadil Diggs can go, I'm the only defensive lineman you've really been able to consistently rely on, so I'm going to sit out for the next 3 games until I get more money. Kyle McCord can say, whatever you gave me, double it. LaQuinn Allen can say, you're not giving me the ball enough, so I'm going to sit at home. I'm not even going to go off to UNLV. I'm not even going to take the plane.
Right.
This is where we are now. And NFL, think about this. NFL contracts that are signed, it used to be like 8 years, 100 mil, Albert Hainsworth, but it was never 8 years, 100 million. And I want to give a shout out to Mike Golig, who opened my eyes to this when I was on ESPN radio in Scranton, PA. When he said, whatever you see a contract is, it's almost never that.
Oh, yeah, especially in NFL.
In the NFL. So he goes, 8 years, 100 million. He goes, he's never going to see that. Maybe he sees 50, 40. But it was like that where it leaned on the side of the team. Now you got guys that sign a 3-year extension, and in the first year of that extension, they're like, yeah, I need you to trade me. And now the NFL is like listening to the players, and the owners are kind of playing at the mercy of them, when before the players were being at the mercy of the owners. But I think everyone in the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball and the MLS is now looking at collegiate athletics and going, wait a second. You could go to 4 places in 4 years. You can quit on a team in the middle of it. You can declare rules for yourself like red shirting. Like, you can't even call this free agency, and you can't even call this like this money thing of it. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It doesn't seem like anybody has to abide by it. It doesn't seem like the NCAA is policing it. And this isn't free agency, it's chaos.
Okay. But what I found interesting about that, though, I think it was in this past year's NFL Combine, and it's like player interviews is now focusing on how well that kid handled his NIL when he was in college, or is he, other than is he a coachable kid? Is he not listening?
Yeah.
Did NIL go to his head? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
be careful you might get what you want on this end, but then when you're trying to get to the next level, they can evaluate on how well you handling yourself and stuff like that. So it all makes everybody can evaluate different aspects of it. So like I say, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I mean, you put yourself in a situation now where, I mean, folks, this is insane. I mean, I immediately thought about Fran Brown. And I thought to myself, no matter how good of a recruiter you are, how honest you are, how much you care, whatever you promise, whatever guys are getting paid and this and that, Fran could, like, after this season, have to go find 30 other people, just like any other coach.
Yeah, exactly. That's the worst thing about it. It's like, here you are, even if you redshirt a kid, because you're developing a kid.
Yeah.
He's put a time in the program. He's following the culture. And then all of a sudden now he's like, you know what? I don't want to be a part of this. And it's like, and then you probably thought this kid, he go through one more spring ball and he's on the cusp of, breaking the too deep or whatever. And it's like, now you're just back to square one. So that's really what I hate about it. It's like you can't build a continuity of a team with somebody just changing their minds on you in the middle. And I get there are cases or situations, especially situation, it might be in benefit of the kid where he has to transfer back closer to home for personal reasons, whatever the case may be. But just being selfish and just saying me, and I'm out of here. Yeah.
Well, that's what I tell people. I said when you have no parameters, yes, a kid can transfer because they were lied to. Yes, a kid can transfer because they want to be closer to home. Yes, a kid can transfer because
coaching change.
Yeah,
something
whatever
like that.
It may be. Or because they were promised something and they were lied to.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's no parameters, a kid can also transfer because they're not getting paid as much money as they think they're worth. They can transfer because they don't want to compete with anybody. Mm-hmm. They could transfer because they want something handed to them. They could transfer because this school actually wanted them to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
They can transfer because their ex-girlfriend started dating somebody else on the team and they don't want to see it.
I'm out of here.
I mean, they could transfer for any reason whatsoever. And that's the issue, because a guy like John Raymond, who has something going on with his family and he wants to be closer to home, tries to transfer into Syracuse, play immediately, and the NCAA won't give him a waiver. Mm-hmm. But then Tate goes from, was it Tate Martell?
Mm-hmm.
Goes from Ohio State because he finds out Justin Fields is coming in. He goes from Ohio State and goes to Miami because he doesn't want to compete with him.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Tate, and he gets an immediate waiver. So John Raymond has a family thing. He doesn't get a waiver. Tate just doesn't want to go up against anybody, and he gets a waiver. So, again, the NCAA had all this control and favoritism and things that they did, and just not even, maybe if it's not even favoritism, but they weren't treating people equally.
They felt like it.
So
certain programs got the benefit.
Whatever they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, the NCAA had all this power, and they're screwing over kids that are maybe trying to do it for the right reasons and then helping out kids that weren't doing it for the right reasons. But now you can do whatever you want. Now you can redshirt yourself. So again, it was like the NCAA had all the power, the school had all the power, the kids aren't making any money. Now the kids can make all this money, the kids can fight over this money, the kids can redshirt themselves, the kids can quit on the team, the kids can leave, the kids don't have to do this and that. And so, I mean, where did we get to if we went from a horrible situation where these student athletes were controlled by their schools and the NCAA to a place where there's now no control?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like, why can't we meet somewhere in the middle? And you want to go to Congress, the one place that can never meet in the middle? You want to meet in the middle with a place that doesn't meet in the middle. How does that make sense?
Yeah, it don't.
I mean, just some dumb stuff that we see here. So it's crazy. I don't like it. But Matt Sluka is not playing in this game. We do have Holy Cross going up against Syracuse. Your thoughts?
You know what? This is a chance for Syracuse to bounce back. They got a little bad taste in their mouth, after they lost to Stanford. Um, going into that game, there are some good lineup changes, that we wasn't really expecting, but, they tried to prepare best they could. And I would give Stanford some credit, too, because they did well taking advantage of the bye, changing up some things, throwing different looks at Syracuse, and the offense kind of struggled, the first half, just be honest. And then they put it together. We had an opportunity to pull it out with the last 3 minutes. So now, turn the page. Like you told me after the game, you say don't let Stanford beat 2 losses.
Yeah.
So, hey, just let's go into this new week. Don't underestimate no opponent. Let's go in here. It's Holy Cross. Show that we can put an effective running game out there, because that's something that we really didn't get a chance to put out there on the last time out on the field. Got to have the offensive line open up some more holes. Maybe they learned some things from the Stanford film that, hey, if we don't fix these problems, other teams going to copycat, those same exact stunts and angles and stuff like that. So, it's just a chance to get back out there and, like I said, maybe get the run game back on track.
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about what Kyle does. I mean, and even though, they took Rondé away with double teams, but now it's time for other guys to kind of step up and be part of the offense too.
Yeah, and I think, and again, with Zede Haynes and whatever's going on, I just pray and hope the best for him and that things work out, and just respect his privacy, people. He is not on the depth chart this week.
Yeah.
So Jackson Meeks is backed up by Daryl Gill Jr. Umari Hatcher is backed up by Justice Ross Simmons, who we really haven't seen. Trevor Pena has Emmanuel Ross behind him. And quarterback is the same. Running back is Yasin Willis is now above Will Nixon. They're still an or, but now Yasin has a little bit of an edge. Will didn't play in the last game.
Right.
And then Arande has Dan Villari behind him at tight end. Left tackle still Demetrius Weatherspoon. Left guard still Jacob Bradford. Center Jean-Marie Reed still there. Right guard Mark Petrie. Right tackle Savion Washington. And beyond that, Fadil Diggs is still the only defensive lineman without an or. Kevin Jobity Jr. could be him or Murad Watson or Isaiah Hastings at D tackle. At the other D tackle, Tank Wilson or Rashad Perry or Elijah Fuentes Cundiff. DN on the other side, Dennis Jaquez Jr., who got a sack this past week, the only sack for Syracuse against Stanford, and Ashton Daniels. It's him or Chase Simmons or Jahid Lassane Jr. At middle linebacker, we have Derek McDonald, backed up by James Hurd Jr. At weak side, Justin Barron and Anwar Sparrow. And I want to stop there for a second because I have said last year they call it the Rover in Baber's 335. They called it the Star or whatever in this one for Fran Brown's team in the 425. But what I've said to you all is Justin Barron is not a DB. Justin Barron, in my opinion, is a linebacker and a defensive back. He's a hybrid, which is why he's the Rover, which is why he's the Star, because he's a hybrid. And Fran said out loud that he's a linebacker. And we're now seeing in the depth chart that Justin Barron has now officially moved to linebacker.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's good. And I think he was very productive last game against Stanford in that position too. So I mean, he kind of proved that he has the skill for that position. He's a big kid, 6'4". So he played well at the line of scrimmage. Like you said, that kind of star position was a guy that kind of come down to the line of scrimmage. Where you got Deuce and Elijah at the back, taking the deep part of the field. So he mostly came down to play that flat, back out of the backfield, coming out, taking swing passes or tight end, maybe covering the flat. He usually came down and held that position down. But now, like you said, we could see him be productive at linebacker.
So he's backed up by Anwar Sparrow. Corner on one side, Clarence Lewis. On the other side, Marcellus Barnes. So I think Fran said at the beginning of the week he's day-to-day. So hopefully we'll see him out there. It used to be at the corner for the last couple of weeks. It said Marcellus Barnes or Devin Grant. Now it says Greg Delane behind Marcellus Barnes. There's no or. Devin Grant has been moved to the star, a.k.a. the rover, a.k.a. the DB linebacker hybrid. So Devin Grant, who got his first Syracuse interception this past week against Stanford and his 6th collegiate interception overall. He was 6th in the nation last year with 5 interceptions when he was with the University at Buffalo. So Devin Grant has now moved to where Justin Barron was. Jaden Gould is behind him. And at the safety position, strong safety Elijah Clark, Brahim Long Jr. or Cornell Perry behind him. And at free safety, Deuce and Barry Buxton III. So some movement around here in the DB world. Marcellus Barnes, it looks to be like that's his if he's good to go. Clarence Lewis on the other side still. Devin Grant moves to where Justin Barron is. Justin Barron moves to where Derek McDonald is. Derek McDonald moves to where Marlo Wax Jr. was.
Yeah. So, those are the adjustments.
And then on the other side of it here for the Holy Cross Crusaders, when we take a look at Holy Cross and where things are at in their respect this season, Holy Cross, they're inside of the FCS. And so for them and where they kind of stack up here, I want to go back and take a look at their most recent game. So they started the season with a loss at Rhode Island 20-17. They lost to New Hampshire 21-20. And they won at Bryant 43-22. So their losses this season have come from 2 losses are a combined 4 points and 1 possession. So they are one, and then the first 2. And then they lost to Yale by 1 possession, 38-31 most recently. 2 games on the road, 2 at home. They have not won at home. They're 1-1 on the road. But if you look at this, 1 possession loss to Rhode Island, 1 possession in New Hampshire, 1 possession to Yale. In those 3 games, a combined 11 points that they lost by over 3 games. So they've been right in every game, even though the record shows 1-3.
Yeah, definitely it was. And I think I heard Fran mention during this week's press conference I think they lost their starting running back. So I know you're going to pull up the depth chart here, but that's something that he mentioned. Like, hey, these other guys are stepping in to fill that productivity from that young man that was lost. So. But yeah, they've been in some battles, man. They've been in some close games.
Yeah, and looking at where things have kind of gone on here, unfortunately, and just where things are at, looking on the season-ending injury to Jordan Fuller, their running back who you're talking about here. Jordan Fuller won its first game of 2024 last week at Bryant, but they lost, or a couple weeks ago, they lost All-America senior running back Jordan Fuller, and just sad to see him go and sad to see this happen here. So unfortunate to not have Jordan Fuller in this game, but if we go back and look at the statistics and where things were at, so he wasn't available for their loss to Yale, but the game before their only win of the season, he was available for that game. Statistically, Jordan Fuller was leading the team, and even though he didn't play in the last game, still leads the team. 62 carries, which is ahead of Jaden here by almost double. So Jaden has 35, Jordan Fuller has 62. Jaden has 156 rushing yards, Jordan 253, and 4 touchdowns apiece between the two. So Jaden Clairvaux, he 35 carries, 156 yards, 4.5 yards a carry, and 4 rushing touchdowns to equal Jordan Fuller. So as much as they're missing their main back here, they still have a guy who's found the end zone as many times as Jordan Fuller.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other couple of running backs behind him are still averaging 4 yards a carry. So that tells you kind of that offensive line was doing a pretty good job for those guys, opening up holes and giving them opportunities to make plays.
Yeah, we look at Sam Slade, 17 carries, 81 yards, 4.8 yards a carry. And then Joe Pasansky, the quarterback, 19 carries for 77 yards, 4.1 yards a carry for him. He has a rushing touchdown. He comes into this game with Syracuse, 52 of 87, completion percentage, 59.8%, 875 passing yards in 4 games to go with 4 touchdowns to 1 interception. And on the other side of it, in 3 games played, 1,074 yards for Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord, who had over 350 yards in the first 2 games, 4 touchdowns in the first passing, 4 touchdowns in the second passing, and most recently 339 passing yards.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, and the completion percentage for Kyle McCord is higher here. So Joe Pasansky will have to see what he does. As far as who they go out to, guys that have found the end zone, Jacob Peterson, Syracuse, it doesn't matter who the coach is. It doesn't matter the scheme. Syracuse has struggled historically with tight ends. And the guy that is leading the team in receptions with 14 yards with 231 is Jacob Peterson, their tight end. He's got a touchdown. His longest play is 71 yards. Max Mosey, wide receiver, has a touchdown. 9 catches for 205 yards, averaging over 22 yards a catch. And then you have Charlie Mullally, wide receiver, 8 catches, 136 yards, and a touchdown. And then Maxwell Warren, 1 catch, but it was a 74-yard touchdown for him. Their kicker, Daniel Porto, somebody named him right, that Daniel named there, at 12 for 12 on extra points, 4 for 5 on field goals, and that's where he's stacked up. Defensively, your leading tackler is Frankie Monty, the linebacker, 39 total tackles. He also leads the team in assisted tackles with 20 and in solo tackles with 19. Behind him, Cam Jones, cornerback, with 27. Curtis Harris Lopez, safety, with 21 total tackles. And Drew Spinagati has 17, and then a linebacker. And then Cameron Mills, corner, has 13. And as far as interceptions go, Curtis Harris Lopez has 1, and Chisom Onwuzurigbo, safety, has an interception as well. Those are the 2 interceptions for the team this season. Forced fumbles, Frankie Monty has 2, and also a forced fumble from Curtis Harris Lopez, who's been all over the board here statistically. Cam Santee at linebacker has a forced fumble. William Robinson, D lineman, has a fumble recovery. Matthew Kane, linebacker, has a forced fumble. Carlo Crescetti, safety, has a forced fumble. And then Onwuzurigbo has a forced fumble, as well as Joe Townsend, who forced it and recovered it as a D lineman there. Garrett Baldwin, a safety, has a forced fumble. So the team has 9 forced fumbles coming from 8 different players in 4 games.
So yeah, that tells you they're around the ball. You know what I'm saying? They probably getting tackled, and if you're not going down, you better protect the ball because they're probably swiping at it and trying to rip it from you. So you definitely got to be careful on those.
Yeah, and so the question that came in, Zede Haynes, not on the team right now due to a family matter.
Yeah, that's kind of what
Fran said.
Just put out.
Yeah, so that it's a family thing, and he wants to respect the family. So, which I understand is an Italian. Syracuse, on their side, they, like I have said earlier, 2-1. They lost the last game by 2 points. Your thoughts about the loss that Syracuse had, biggest takeaways, the things that stuck out to you. I don't even want to engage the fanatics and what they said, but your thoughts about the 26-24 now that we've had some time with it.
Like I said, maybe because of some of not having Zede out there. I'm not saying that's the main reason, but the offense just didn't click in the first half to me.
Yeah.
There were some good explosive plays, and some of those plays were called back due to some penalty calls. So, but they kind of late third quarter, fourth quarter, kind of got themselves back in the control of themselves, but they didn't come out with that same kind of start that we know that they can come out with. You know, this offense is more explosive than what they showed last game. Now, like I said, I will give both teams credit. They both were going off a bye. Usually when the team has a couple of weeks to prepare for you, you know, we can see that like in bowl season when teams can go back and get practices together and kind of watch film on teams. You can kind of either change up your style a little bit and, you know, or do something different on defense that they may not be expecting. So I give Stanford some credit. You know, I think even Fran kind of mentioned that the D-line was doing some things that were a little different. than what they were normally used to doing. And then they also the bye week gave Stanford time to kind of come out here an extra day.
Yeah.
Get their legs up under them. Get here in Syracuse a day earlier than they probably would have. Say if it was like a normal week, if they didn't have a bye week, then that means that they didn't have that extra day of practice to get ready for Syracuse. The little small little stuff. So I mean, and in the end, again, like I said, 3 minutes left in that game, Syracuse was leading. And it just came down to a team making a play. So,
and it was the first lead of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
For Syracuse.
Yeah, exactly.
So they played all the way back.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, Kyle made some bad reads out there.
Yeah. So like I said, it was just a little. The offense wasn't as sharp as they normally are. So again, that could be due to personnel. Because I truly believe if we did have Z out there, that's another threat deep down maybe that could have forced Stanford from not doubling Aronde as much. They probably still would have doubled them, but maybe a couple of deep catches to either, Umari and Z, then that might have changed up the strategy. Like, okay, we're going to get burned by these two guys, and we might have to pick our poison.
Yeah.
Maybe just playing to Aronde, then that might have changed it, made a big difference offensively. But then I think running the ball, too. We just got to find better ways. Again, like Fran was saying, the defensive line were stunting and crossing and maybe loading the box up where we didn't run. So, but yeah, you know what? We'll probably we'll learn from that and we'll come out this game better for that.
I want to make a note because I did research on these last 3 games as far as what this offense has done in an unbalanced way.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go to that unbalanced offense that we've seen in the first game for Syracuse this season in a victory over Ohio. I want to head to that one first. I had the opportunity to speak with the offensive line coach, and I want you to go back and check that out on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. You can also find it on X at CallDT and on Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. I spoke with O-line coach of Syracuse, Dale Williams, about what has been going on with this team. And worth noting here in that respect is where the team has been in their back and forth. And I want to read this off to you here about how the offense has gone in these first 3 games, passing versus running the ball. So Syracuse in the first game against Ohio, they ran the ball, they passed the ball 39 times.
Mm-hmm.
And in passing the ball 39 times, they only ran the ball 30 times to the 39 there. And then I take out the fact that we saw, I want to get into it here. I want to make sure I got everything in front of me. So 39 times, here it is. And because I asked Fran about it, 39 passes, 30 rushes, but Kyle McCord ran 5 times. So if you take out the quarterback keepers, Syracuse in their first game under Fran Brown, 39 pass, 25 rush.
Mm-hmm.
Against Georgia Tech, 46 pass, 32 rush. Take out the 3 by McCord, it's 29, 46 to 39. And the biggest differential was in their loss, their only loss of the season. Against Stanford, 42 passing attempts, 17 rush attempts. Take out the 5 by McCord. They passed the ball 30 times more than they ran it, 42 to 12.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was like I said. You noticed that part that they really wasn't. Not saying they weren't making an effort, but maybe they were just taking what Stanford was giving them. Maybe, like I say, if they were crowding the box, they're comfortable enough with Kyle and say, "All right, we'll put it in your hands," or we'll maybe throw it out to the flat. An extended handoff, kind of we were saying some of those short passing plays, but then again, like Fran was saying at the beginning of the year, sometimes you just got to line up and run the ball. And if teams gonna stop it, you got to make them stop
Which
it.
I don't understand why they're not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand, even if they stack the box, even if they look like, even if they're big guys up front or they're whatever. Like, I feel like Fran's the type of guy No matter how big, if you're bigger than me, if you think you're stronger than me, if you think you're faster than me, I'm still going to line up against you and I'm still going to push you around.
Right.
And so I'm not seeing a trust in the run. I'm not seeing a trust in LaQuinn Allen Jr. I'm not seeing a trust in Yesen Willis. I'm not seeing a trust when he's out there in Will Nixon. I'm not seeing like the whole like Syracuse is just not running the ball. And so if it's like, well, we looked at this read, we didn't like it, we saw what was going on here, or they were giving us this and giving us that. The reality of it all is they're not even trying to do it. They're not trying to run. Even if you stack the box, even if you engage 8, even if you bring the linebackers in closer, they're not trying to do it. And if it doesn't work up the middle, Syracuse is not running an option. They're not having McCord run with his running backs. They're not doing reverses. They're not doing flea flickers. They're not doing pitches to the outside. So to me, it almost looks like they're afraid. Like the coaching staff is afraid to let them run it.
Yeah, that could be. No, I don't say they're afraid. I would just say
I don't want to say afraid. But
I know what you mean.
They're not. They're not even trying to do it. So
Yeah.
I can't even sit here and say that it's failing because it doesn't have a chance to not fail.
There's no attempt.
There's no attempt to win.
Right.
So how can I say that they're failing running the ball when they're not even trying to do it?
Right. But not going to say it's probably come down to strategy. That's why, like you said, when you stack it and you got a guy like Kyle, they got confidence in Kyle. Like, okay, let's check out of this play.
But unless he has an arm that's like Gumby, I mean, eventually that arm's gonna get tired. That man's been throwing like crazy.
Well, yeah, he has, and that's that. You just read off the numbers. The numbers don't lie. You know, he has been throwing it, but like you were saying, eventually gonna have to get to a time where we say we want to run it
40 times a game.
Yeah, when we want to run it, we want to run it. So maybe that's just different formations. I mean. You can't maybe go 12 personnel or something like that.
But you got a 1,000-yard back with Will Nixon and Yesen Willis backing him up in LaQuinn Allen Jr. You got Malachi James, a home run guy. You got Trevor Pena, who can have a bunch of different things over the middle, on the outside, down the field, in a check down situation, in the backfield, take a reverse. You're not asking him to do the things in the backfield.
Right.
Like, my frustration comes from you have Dan Villari, you have Arande Gadsden II, you have Maximilian Mang, you have David Clement, who I've spoken to in his recruitment from Christian Brothers Academy in Albany, and obviously Fran brought him up this week to start the week on Monday in the press conference that I was at. But you got 4 tight ends, you got all these running backs, and you brought in these big old dudes at left tackle and right tackle, and they're not even trying. And see, my thing is like, again, 2 things. One, if you're not even trying to do it, how do you know it doesn't work? And secondly, even if you're looking at it and, you know, Jeff Nixon is there as the OC and he's like, I don't like the way the defense is lining up. I don't know what they're doing there. I don't like how those guys are there. So don't run it up the middle. Like they're not pitching it to the outside. They're not relying on their speed. They're not relying. I mean, we talk about these guys having less body fat and they have more muscle and they look the part, but then you're not even letting them go out there and see if they can hit somebody and move that person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, do you really want me to believe that Stanford was just more muscle than Syracuse and Stanford was just too physical? That brings me back to Dino when he said, oh yeah, you know, like our linemen looked at Duke's linemen on film, but then when they saw them walk onto the field, they were like, oh, those are some big boys, a lot bigger than we thought they were. And he said that after the loss almost, and to me it was almost like saying, hey, you know, we got scared of what we saw. We thought they're bigger than us. He made his defensive line, whether he meant to or not, he made his defensive line sound like we looked at these guys and thought we were no match for them, and then they pushed us around. And to me, it's like, I don't view Fran as somebody who goes, yeah, we got pushed around, yeah, we got this, yeah, we got that. But at the end of this game against Stanford, he did say that.
Yeah,
we got pushed around, we got out physicaled. But my thing is, like, you didn't even try to get in the trenches with them. You didn't make, like, if I'm Stanford, you didn't challenge me in the rushing game. You didn't challenge me in your run blocking ability. You didn't challenge me in what your offensive line can do down the field. You didn't challenge me by what your tight ends can do as an extra piece of the offensive line. You didn't challenge me by the footwork of your running backs and the vision and the space that they can get through. If I'm Stanford, I don't feel like I won against the run. I feel like you didn't even give me a chance to beat you in it. Right. It's almost like Syracuse hiked the ball at the beginning of the game, and Fran was like, "We're abandoning the run." And when I look back at the Stanford game, that's probably one of the most frustrating things that I have is why wouldn't you run the ball? Yeah. Like you say, you take what the defense gives you, but at what point did the defense of Stanford tell you in the first quarter you can't run the whole game?
Yeah. No.
And that's what I said to you during the game. I was like, why aren't they even trying to run the ball?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I mean, like you said, you got the tip to make it. You won't know what you got until you.
I'm Evil Knievel, baby. I get paid for the attempt.
Exactly. You got to make the attempt, but I think it could have been, like I said, could be a game of strategy. Maybe they thought Stanford was weak in the secondary for some reason and whatnot. But given that you didn't have your number one receiver, you thought you probably would have leaned on the run a little harder. You know what I'm saying? Kind of reminded me of the Georgia Tech game. If you thought about it, in the first play, we came out with like 2 or 3 tight ends, one receiver, and it was almost like that whole insult about being tough. We came out on that first play and went straight at them for like 6-7 yards, and that was kind of like setting the tone. Like, okay, we coming out lining up in a big lineup. We didn't see anything like that now. So I definitely I can agree with you when you say it just didn't look like they was attempting to make the run. And that's definitely, they're going to have to go back and look at the tape, and see why wasn't we given that opportunity, because you don't want to get guys frustrated out there too. There's a lot of guys on that team with a lot of pride too that think they're part of the team. So give those guys opportunity to be part of the game plan and show their abilities out there too. So.
And it's like they don't want to be one-dimensional, but they're playing one-dimensional football.
Yeah.
So... And again, LeQuint was a 1,000-yard back without Savion Washington and Demetrius Witherspoon. Will Nixon was playing with Michael Penix Jr. in Washington in an undefeated season all the way up to the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Yasin Willis is another big guy who you expect to be able to run between the tackles. So, to me, I would rather see Syracuse try to run the ball and it doesn't work and you adjust than to just do what they did in this last game against Stanford where they're like, okay, Kyle, we're going to go entire drives where you're not even going to hand the ball off. To me, it's just first or second down. Put it out there. And the thing about running the ball is sometimes it's just you just continue to hit with it to see if you could finally break one. And the thing is, in this Stanford game, if I was Jeff Nixon, I would go, okay, we just passed, on the last 20 plays, we passed 17 times. So hit them with the run because they're not going to be ready for it.
Yeah.
Hit them with the play action. Hit them with the flea flick. Like, do something to make it something else. But I don't know. I'm trying to think about it now. I don't know if I saw Syracuse pitch the ball to the outside once in the first 3 games.
Yeah. Well, they did it on that 4th down play with Georgia Tech.
I'm trying to remember it.
Kyle got stopped on a short 3rd down, and then they came with 4th and 1, and he pitched it LeQuint, and he went for like 20 yards because that Georgia Tech guy. He came down.
I guess in my head I was considering that more of a pat.
Yeah, but that was a more numbers game. That guy, it was aggressive though. You know what I'm saying? That's what you say. You got to take advantage of when the defense is going to be aggressive like that.
And Fran said, he's like, LeQuint, he said repeatedly, going into the season and during the season so far, he said LeQuint is the leader of this team. Not the leader of the offense, not the leader. He said he is the leader of this team. And he said, you may be saying we're not giving him the ball, but when we needed that crucial, play against Georgia Tech, who'd we give it to? But then in that same vein, I'm saying then give it to him again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just give it to him again. Like, I'm the first person to defend Fran against the lunatics that are out there that are freaking out about 1 game and 2 points. I'm looking at this constructively, and I talked to Fran about running the ball and being balanced going into the Stanford game, and then they ran it less. And then I asked him about it again, and you can see it on Facebook.com and YouTube.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, on X at CallDT, and on Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. But you can see his answer to me because I said, you had stated you wanted a balanced attack. You had stated that it's coming and they got things that we're going to start to see, but we didn't see it. So like, I don't want you to give away your playbook, but I asked you about balance and then it became less balanced. So I'm hoping you get closer to, 40-20, 30-30, 35-25, something like that. And instead you went in like this whole other direction.
Yeah.
So now my concern becomes like, what are we doing here? I also asked Fran on all of those channels you can watch about the offensive and defensive lines and him assessing the first 3 weeks. And then off of that, offensive line coach Dale Williams giving his thoughts. And he told me that the offensive line has been pretty average.
Yeah.
He said they've done some good things. They've done some things that they need to work on. But he seems to be a very, like, I'm going to tell you what it is. And in the conversation, he had basically stated, like, from what I took away from Dale is the offensive line has a lot of work to do.
Yeah. But you know what I just thought about that when you were saying, talking about the game?
Yeah.
The other issue, to my opinion, is Kyle's a pocket passer. When you don't have the threat of a dual threat guy, kind of just go with Garrett and LeQuint last year. Garrett can hand it or do his famous play action where he was hiding the ball and everybody fell in love with it.
Yeah.
So you had the backside defensive lineman kind of had to respect that, the defensive end. I did kind of see a little bit, I ain't going to say every play, but when in the game against Stanford, Kyle hands it to LeQuint, that guy on the back end is crashing down. He's not even respect. There's probably could have been times Kyle could have probably faked it and rolled bootlegged out and would probably been wide open to run. I know Fran talked about he wanted him to run a little bit more, but it's almost like when you don't have to respect that because you know he's not that style, then their blocking schemes got to be a little bit different.
And the fake's not going to work if you're not running the ball in reality. Then faking the run isn't going to work because if you're not running and then you fake like you're going to, what's that going to do?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, they just got to. Their blocking schemes got to change
they
a little bit. Yeah. Their blocking schemes got to change. If they know that defense ain't going to crash just because he know that Kyle 9 times out of 10 is handing it off. He's not faking it. Then you're going to have to put a tight end over there to help chip to keep that guy from getting the backside. But I see at least one play. It could have been more. I did notice that where I was like, well, he's not. He don't even get a chance to get to the line of scrimmage. The guys running him down from the backside. So
yeah.
And that's to me, that's my opinion. That could be another thing too. Why, some of those holes are not there developing for LeQuint because they don't have to respect the quarterback run too. So
yeah. So I mean, let's get into looking at our catalysts for this. We'll go to Holy Cross first. Offensive. On the offensive side, who do you focus on
for Syracuse
for Holy Cross?
You want to go first?
Oh, you're going to let me go first?
Yeah, you can go first. I know give you the opportunity to go first.
So I'm going to say that it's Joe Pasansky, the quarterback. The fact that he's not great at completion percentage, and now that I've said that, he'll complete.
Way to go, Dan.
I know he's going to have a career day. 20 of 29. So, but he's got 875 passing yards. He's got 200. He's got as far as rushing 77 yards on the ground. But yeah, I mean, I think Joe Pasansky, seeing what he can do against this defense of Syracuse, how he can pick it apart, if they can score right away, and if he can take advantage of some things. I think Joe is the catalyst. If he can not turn the ball over, he's got 1 interception to 4 touchdowns in 4 games passing. So even though his completion percentage is not great, if he can make some better reads, if he can play to his strengths and get the team down the field, I think that, I mean, for me, the catalyst is Joe Pasansky and being able to keep the ball in the hands of the team. I very easily could have picked somebody else, but I kind of left him out there for you.
No, that's fine. Let me see. I'm gonna probably say a tight end because kind of like you were saying that's his favorite target.
Yeah.
And when I say tight end, I'm gonna say tight end with a little bit of the run game. Like if they can get into the red zone, you better keep your eyes on the tight end getting slipped. Just like we were just talking about, quarterback fake, draw you in. If you ain't paying attention to the tight end, get in behind you, and you can throw for a touchdown or something like that. So,
yeah. And he likes his tight end, Jacob Peterson, number 86, 6'4", 250.
Yeah. So maybe he's gonna block you until you get to the red zone, and then hey, play action off of that. If you ain't paying attention, you can catch the tight end in the back of the end zone. So
yeah, very easily could see him do the block and then all of a sudden get past and then put his hand up. So, we'll see. The other guy I was going to say is Jaden Clairvaux, the running back that I would imagine is going to take the majority of the carries now.
Yeah.
So I would say he's a definite catalyst because Syracuse has struggled with run defense.
Yeah. I agree.
So Syracuse's catalyst on offense, I'll go to you first on this one.
I'm going to say it's going to be the run game. Since we done talked about them not attempting.
Wait, hold on. Look at this for a second.
Do
you see Syracuse? So online right now, Syracuse's stats on the top are Syracuse players, and it says Drew Brees, Taysom Hill, Josh Hill.
Well, hold up. We got a whole new lineup. Let me change my mind.
So apparently on Syracuse, there's Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara. So Syracuse has gotten mixed in with the New Orleans Saints on their stat sheet right now.
Don't tell Fran.
So
what did Fran tell you? My secrets. Yeah. If I tell you my secrets, they're not secrets.
I'm gonna tell you this right now. So Fran went on ESPN and he changed all the stats and took everything away. And also, I just want to check the phone records of Matt Sluka and see what phone calls Fran's been making.
But I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say the run game. I think they're gonna come out, try to set the tone. I mean, I know it's Holy Cross. Not saying poo is Holy Cross, but they maybe try to set the tone and try to make that maybe a foundation of the game, and then go off from there.
Yeah. So I mean, you're gonna say the run game for Syracuse. I'm gonna say for the Orange offensively.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say, if you're saying the run game, I'm going to put my focus. I'm not going to pick Kyle McCord because we've talked about him before. So I'm going to go with the receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say because Trevor Pena, he was the saving grace against Stanford, and no Zeed Haynes and potentially no Zeed in this game. So I'm going to say Jackson Meeks, Umari Hatcher, and Daryl Gill Jr. I'm going to say the receiving core as a whole, who's going to step up between Jackson Meeks and Daryl Gill Jr. and Umari Hatcher to help out Trevor Pena. And Aronde Gadsden II, can he reel in some of these balls?
Yeah.
Because he's had some drops.
Yeah, he did. And, Justin Ross Simmons, too. I mean, he's got another week to get himself back into health, so maybe he can come on. Emmanuel Ross is another kid I've been waiting to kind of see get his opportunity, to be productive out there. So I definitely want to see what the wide receiver group do coming in this one too.
Defensively, what do you got?
Defensively,
for Holy Cross.
For Holy Cross, holy moly! I'm gonna say D-line.
Okay.
Let's see if they watch the Stanford tape.
Yeah.
Getting creative with see if Syracuse learned any lessons from a week ago.
Yeah.
I always say everything, or not I always say, but they say it's a copycat league. So I would say let's see what the defensive line can come up cooking against the Syracuse offense.
I'm going to say the middle of the field. I'm going to say the linebacker core. Those short passes where a guy like Aronde Gadsden's trying to catch something over the middle or on his way toward the sideline and he's getting hit and dropping these balls.
Yeah.
And we have multiple linebackers that have been involved in sacking the quarterback. Matthew Kane has a half a sack. Frankie Monty, the leading tackler in solo, assisted in total tackles for Holy Cross. He has half a sack as well. So, I mean, ultimately, For me, I'm going to say it's the middle of the field because Syracuse wide receivers have struggled with the middle of the field. And so Kyle trying to drive some of these tight passes in there. I want to see if they can break open in the middle of the field, if they can hold on to the ball in contact and with those hands coming around you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because I've seen defenses have success against Syracuse in the short yardage passes and in the passes in the middle of the field, I'm going to go to the middle of the field and say the linebackers.
Okay.
What about? I'll go. I guess I'll go first for Syracuse defense catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick two people.
Okay.
I'm going to pick Justin Barron now as a linebacker.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick Deuce Chestnut. I'm going to challenge Deuce to get an interception.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to challenge Justin Barron to start taking care of the middle of the field and condensing the run game.
Gotcha. All right. You're gonna go with that, and I'll stick with D-line again for Syracuse.
Okay.
Try to control the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
Make Holy Cross. Try to earn, every yard they're gonna give. They're gonna try to run the ball like you were saying. So, and then maybe get to the quarterback, create a little bit of chaos and some sacks. So I'm gonna go D-line.
Okay. D-line.
Yeah.
So seeing how they step up, Dennis Chakez Jr. doing some good things here. Let's see if that continues for him, and obviously Fidel Diggs doing a good job as well, which leads us to our score.
Mm-hmm. I would say Syracuse 45.
Okay.
Holy Cross 10.
So you got Syracuse 45, Holy Cross 10, and I'm going to make sure that we put these out here on our channel, all of our channels here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say, so you give that to me again. So Isaac's going with Syracuse, how much?
45.
45, and Holy Cross with 10. Okay. I'm going to say the score that just came to my brain. And I'm going to pick, so I want to make sure I put this in here as well. So Isaac is going with Syracuse to win, 45, Holy Cross with 10. I'm going to pick Syracuse to win, and I'm going to go 38. Well, let me think about this now. I'm going to go different. I'm going to go 37-17.
Okay.
37-17, Syracuse over Holy Cross. So that's my pick for this. Any final notes about the game before we hop into it?
Nah, yeah, I just want to see them come back, bounce back off a disappointing loss, go back to the film room, try to learn from their mistakes, and come out and put a better performance on this week.
Yeah, Syracuse can't let a loss beat them twice,
Mm-hmm.
and Holy Cross is definitely going to come in ready to play. Like I said, they have lost 3 games of 4 this season, all of them within one possession. Some of them, or 2 of those 3, just a couple points. The most they've lost by is a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, Syracuse 2-1, Holy Cross 1-3. The game is this Saturday at the Dome, and that is Saturday, September 28th at noon Eastern Time on ESPN Plus and ACC Network Extra. For now, this is Tortora.
And Alford.
And we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night. And we'll see you for game day on site on location at the Dome, God willing. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. And of course, you can find us Monday through Friday. Wake Up Call is on 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both / Wake Up Call DT. wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. And you could find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. So make sure you go out there and do that today. We appreciate you all for subscribing and following. Of course, this show will be there and so much more. And a big time shout out to our partner down in North Carolina, the Brooklyn Pickle on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina, down the road from Pinehurst Golf Course. Carvel DeWitt in Central and Upstate New York, as well as the Wildcat Sports Pub, Brian's Landing, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Avicoli's, GG Cards or Breaks, Mon Paz, the snack capital of the world, as well as Pizza Man, Great Lakes Honda City, Mother's Cupboard, and Servomation. So can't wait for that, and I appreciate you so very much. Of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of the Lemoyne College Dolphins, as well as the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse and the Binghamton University Bearcats. In the meantime, God bless, no stress, do your best. We'll talk with you soon.